The new Bring Me the Horizon album, Post-Human Nex Gen, sees the band going in their poppiest direction yet, while still maintaining some of that trademark heaviness, but sometimes the mix of the two can be a little underwhelming. I'm going to break it all down on this edition of Rock Album Review. Hey everybody, it's Nick here with you. Welcome back to the channel. Post-Human Nex Gen is the 7th studio album from British heavy rockers Bring Me the Horizon. It's their first full-length album since 2019's Ammo, but also the follow-up to their 2020 EP, Post-Human Survival Horror. And sorry to all those old school Bring Me the Horizon fans, I'm definitely a new school fan of Bring Me the Horizon. I got into them around 2015 when That's the Spirit came out. I love songs like Doomed and Happy Song, Throne, Avalanche, pretty much that entire record. And although I love my fair share of heaviness, I wouldn't say that I'm a huge metalcore or hardcore fan, so when Bring Me the Horizon added in more of those melodic elements, it definitely appealed to me, and I've really enjoyed following them over the last few years. And I don't know if that precludes me from doing this review, because I know for a lot of metal fans and hardcore fans and heavy music fans, things can never be quite heavy enough. And if bands start singing, a lot of metal fans are just gonna be like, nah, I'm out. But I love my melody, man. I'm all about that sweet, sweet melody. What I was interested to hear on this new album, Post-Human Nex Gen, is what the band would sound like without their keyboardist and producer Jordan Fish, who was a huge part of the band over the last, I would say, over a decade, and he was a huge part of their more commercial and mainstream rock sound. But from looking at the credits on Wikipedia, his name is still listed as one of the producers, so I'm sure he's all over this record. I have to say that Ollie Sykes is a next level singer and frontman. I've enjoyed the melodic elements that he's put into his singing over the years to go along with his incredible screaming. His work in the studio is astounding from a vocal perspective. I don't know how he does the stuff that he does. Seeing him live might be a different story. I'm not sure what he really sounds like live. I've seen his stuff on YouTube. It's really hard to pull off a lot of this stuff live, but as a singer myself, I wish I could do half of the stuff that he does. So as I said, I really love That's the Spirit and Ammo, and I've been following the singles that the band has been putting out from this record over the last year or so, and I have to say, overall, not a lot of this new material grabs me as much as the old stuff. The old stuff. You know, older fans are always complaining about the new stuff, complaining that it doesn't sound like the old stuff, and now I'm complaining about their new stuff now it's sounding like they're not as new stuff. It doesn't make any sense. In all honesty, it's been really hard to track all the singles the band has been releasing before this album, and I think every fan of Bring Me the Horizon just wanted this damn album to come out already. Plus, the band didn't employ a waterfall strategy, release strategy on Spotify, which means when they put out a new song, it features the old song. You can listen to them all in one spot. They just put each song out individually, which made it really annoying to listen to on Spotify. And the band has delayed the album so many times, we didn't know when it was going to come out, and then they just did this surprise announcement that there was going to be a surprise drop on Friday. So is this new album from Bring Me the Horizon, Post-Human Nex Gen, worth a listen? I'd say it is, but I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as That's the Spirit or Ammo. The band has gone further into the poppy elements and even further into the heavy elements, which is fine, but there's a lot of production going into this album, and I would say it starts to border on overproduction. There are some really truly great Bring Me the Horizon songs on this new album. I just don't know if I'm going to enjoy them as much as past hits, but I feel like that's how it goes when you listen to a new album. And because this album's been delayed so many times and we've had so many singles released from this album before it came out, 6 singles in total, it doesn't feel quite as fresh as it should. And that's the downside when you're putting out so many songs before a record and you're doing the long game when you're marketing your album. I don't think that's what the band intended, because it sounds like they didn't think that this album would take as long as it did. And obviously Jordan Fish left the band, so it's understandable that it could be delayed, but I feel like we've heard a lot of it before. I'm definitely going to need some more time to listen to this album. I've only listened to it a couple of times. I need more time to dig in. The band just surprise dropped this on us yesterday, and you know what? I need more time. First off, I'm going to mention these OST tracks. These tracks didn't do anything for me. These segue or intermission tracks, they're really cool for the flow of the album and creating mood and having that overall cohesiveness of the record, but they don't actually work as actual songs. And after listening to them for the first time when reviewing this record, record, the chances of me listening to them again are really slim. I like the dedication to the album format and creating a listening experience, but they didn't really work as individual tracks. I have to say the first real song on the record, Utopia, is one of my favorite tracks on this record. It had an awesome intro riff, a little bit more old school 2000s emo. It reminded me of something like The Used. It definitely didn't remind me of Bring Me the Horizon or some of their more heavy elements. It reminded me of 2000s emo like The Used, but I thought it was a great intro song. It was a heavy, but it was a vulnerable song, which is the right mix that you want to find on a Bring Me the Horizon album and on a Bring Me the Horizon track. So Utopia was definitely one of my favorite tracks on this record. I really dig the track Kool-Aid. It felt like a sequel to a song like Happy Song from That's the Spirit. I love the gang vocals on there. It's like, it says what you wanted. Yeah. I really like that. One of the catchier songs, one of the catchier earlier singles on here. I love the super heavy breakdown in there. And then some major shredding from Lee Malia of Bring Me the Horizon. Let him out of the cage more, man. Let him just shred his face off. He sounds great. The top 10 statues that cried blood. That is an amazing title. I know there are some religious or anti-religious overtones in Ollie Sykes' lyrics, and it's definitely apparent on a song like this. Only a few tracks in, and I feel like this is one of the poppiest records that they've done to date. They've done some poppy stuff in the past, but this definitely feels a lot poppier than usual. I think new fans will be into it. I know I'm into it, but I know older fans are probably going to complain because it's not heavy enough. But this song actually has a really crazy, awesome, heavy breakdown, as most of the songs do. But the heavy parts are interwoven into the melodic and catchy and electronic parts that are happening on this record. It's a dense record. There's a lot to listen to, but I really enjoyed this track. The song Limousine featuring Aurora was one of the sludgier, slower tracks on the record. I'm not familiar with Aurora as a vocalist, as an artist, but she has a good voice, and it kind of reminded me of Amy Lee from Evanescence. One of the other singles that we heard before this record came out was Dark Side, and I found a lot of the pre-release singles sounded a little bit samey. They're all bringing together the same elements, and I was hoping that the album would have a little bit more variety. I felt like Ammo had a lot of variety, had those poppy elements, but they were really disparate from the heavier elements on there. It's just, I felt like a better mix overall, but I love the guitar tone on here. Super chuggy and super heavy. A Bullet with My Blood On featuring Under Oath is one of the heavier tracks on the record, featuring another super heavy band in Under Oath. Again, amazed at Ollie Sykes' voice on here. He's hitting those crazy high notes while still doing those awesome screams and just screaming his lungs out. It reminds me of Caleb Shomo from Beartooth. There's a lot of singers who can maybe do one or the other, but these two guys, Ollie Sykes and Caleb Shomo in particular, they can do it all with their vocals. NA has a poppy acoustic intro that is really different for the band. I really loved it, but then it turns into the usual heavy stuff, which isn't bad, but I wish the band had really stuck to their guns a little bit more on this track and just kept it more chill, just let that vibe ride out for a little bit more of the track. It has one of the catchier melodies on the record, but then obvious, personal lyrics from Ollie Sykes talking about addiction and suicide and other personal topics, and I thought this was one of the better tracks on the record for sure. Lost could be the poppiest song that Bring Me the Horizon have ever done. It's closer to being pop punk than being to like metal or hardcore, and with Jordan gone, does the band want to be poppier or do they want to be heavier? I always thought that Jordan was the one who brought the more mainstream rock side to Bring Me the Horizon, and when they announced that he was leaving the band, I thought, okay, well, maybe they want to return to more of the older sound that they did before. That's the spirit of their earlier sound, but then they're doing a lot of really, really poppy stuff on here, so I'm thinking maybe that's the direction they're going to continue, but the lyrics on here are as good as well. Calls out watching anime while high on ketamine. I didn't know that's a thing, but cool, I guess. Some of the other tracks on here I didn't like as much. Strangers I thought was okay, maybe one of the weaker tracks of the early stuff that they released before this record came out. It has lots of electronic elements on there, which makes me think that Jordan Fish was still really involved in this record. R.I.P. Was a decent song, but was one of those songs that made me distracted by all the production. It was something that started to grate on me the more I listened to this record. There are a lot of electronic bleeps and bloops and different things going on. Even when you have a guitar riff, the guitar riff is always kind of stuttered by some sort of electronic element. The drum beats, even though they can be live drums, are kind of stuttered or kind of affected by some sort of electronic noise. And I felt that to be a little bit more distracting as we got further on in the record. Probably the heaviest song on this album is Amen, featuring Lil Uzi Vert and Glassjaw. This is very much old school, Bring Me the Horizon. The band's strength to me is the way they balance the heavy parts and the soft parts. effortlessly moving between heavy screaming verses to these like, melodic soaring choruses. And then having somebody from Glassjaw in there as well adds to that heaviness. But then you have Lil Uzi Vert, who then brings an element of hip hop. So even though the production can be a little bit overdone, I really do enjoy the meshing of those styles. Die For You was another pop rock kind of song. Like I said, the early singles, the stuff that we heard before the release of this record, they were all within a similar vein, those really, really poppy melodies with the heavier elements. And like I said, the downside of releasing all those singles in advance is that we've heard a lot of this record already before it actually came out. So it feels a little bit spoiled to me that we didn't have more freshness to this record, even though there are a lot of new tracks that we haven't heard yet. And the band took some time to make this record. There was a lot of delays, so it's understandable that they release a lot of singles. And I think Die For You is a decent song, but it does grate on my nerves a little bit. The album finishes with a really strong song called Dig It. It's a 7-minute closer. It's a very vulnerable vocal from Ollie Sykes. And then it breaks into this epic electronica rock mix. It's an epic way to end the album. So I thought that Dig It, even though a lot of albums don't really have strong ending tracks, I thought Dig It was a strong and epic closer to Posthuman Nex Gen. Overall, Posthuman Nex Gen, the new album from Bring Me the Horizon, is a strong effort, but I might not like it as much as I liked That's the Spirit and Ammo. There's no doubt that the band put a lot of work into this record. Just isn't some band in a garage playing bass, drums, and guitar with a singer. There is a lot of production going on here and a lot of different sounds, and I think that works for some of the songs and then maybe doesn't work for some of the other songs. It's okay to let things breathe a little bit. These guys are talented musicians, and I don't think they have to overproduce things quite as much. It's a heavy and a long listen. You should really dig into this because there is a lot going on here. This is a very dense record from Bring Me the Horizon. I'm definitely going to need to take some more time to listen to this record and really digest everything going on here. The band dropped it suddenly with an announcement right before it came out at midnight on Friday. We knew it was coming, but we didn't know it was coming this soon. So we need some more time to think about it. And I need to really just think about everything going on here with this record. But overall, I think it's pretty good. In my opinion, it's Bring Me the Horizon's poppiest album, their most accessible mainstream commercial album to date, maybe even more so than Ammo. That's not a bad thing for me, but depending on how much heavy music you like, how much melody you like, your mileage may vary. Overall, I'm going to give the new album from Bring Me the Horizon, Posthuman Nex Gen, a 3 out of 5. And that's it, guys. That is my review of the new album from Bring Me the Horizon, Posthuman Nex Gen. Let me know what you thought of the album in the comments below. If you like this review, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos here on the channel where I talk about rock music reviews, rock albums ranked. I even play a couple songs myself, so you can check that out here on the channel, and follow me across all social platforms everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, X, everywhere at Nick Chino Music. And I'll see you guys again for another rock album review here on the channel. Until then, rock on, everybody.